This is Papa Smurf. You're listening to Our Lifestyle, the podcast, with ODB and the Mayor.
Yo, it's Our Lifestyle Podcast, also known as OLP. Hitting you with another episode, 311. Thanks to everyone that continues to come back every week and check out the new episodes. We got to give a huge shout out to Custom Car Show Productions, our title sponsor. 3 main events, Orange Beach Invasion, towards the end of March every year in Orange Beach, Alabama. Scraping the Coast, their flagship event. That's always going to be in June in Biloxi. And then, of course, Bayou Showdown in Slidell, Louisiana. That's the weekend before Thanksgiving. Let's jump right in. Again, if you're a new listener, maybe you found us because of our title guest this week. Thank you very much for streaming. Make sure you follow and or subscribe. It really helps us out. And you're going to find we're mini trucking inspired 7+ years. We tune in with the Airhead Nation and all of the awesome listeners every week with new content. But, wow, so this week, basically, I want to start off and just apologize again. Miggity Mike the Mayor was off the hook last week. I got a lot of texts, people checking in on his own mental stability. And Ed Eister, shout out to Ed, he mentioned, do we have a bros and dog count, because Mike was off the hook using those. I think he has been hanging around Hammer and Hank from Hammered Weekend Wear a little too much, but rest assured it's a new week, and that's the good thing. Sometimes I ponder when I'm editing these episodes and I go, what the hell are we doing with our lives? I kind of just go, you know what? It's kind of like football. Shake it off, and you hope for a win the next week, especially if you're a Packers fan. So that's what we're doing. We're just focused in on the next episode. So let's get into it. Now, speaking of the next episode, this episode features someone that has been on our list a very long time. And I tend to do this, I'll look at the list and I'll be like, who am I going to have on next? And what I've been doing is trying to go back. Now that summer's over, Randy from NC Florida keeps reminding me, summer's over, damn it. So does Tim. And I keep looking back at that list going, who do we need to link up with? Who do we need to get on? And Nick from Surface Art, Nick Crouch, also known as Surface Nick, he was the next victim for this week. So that audio will be coming up towards the latter part of the episode as usual. And I got to thank Nick for taking the time. Really soft-spoken, humble dude that has, if you don't know, contributed a lot to our scene the past 20+ years, from print to film to art in general. So, Nick, I think you're really going to appreciate it. He did work at Mini Truckin Magazine. He talks about some of those stories. And again, we're super excited to have him on. Episode 311, the overview is brought to you by, speaking of Hammer and Hank, Hammered Weekend Wear. Visit HAMMERD weekendwear.com. Order some merchandise. They feature what they refer to as real builds. You won't believe some of the awesome shirts, hats, decals, stickers, hoodies. You name it, they've got it. Hammered Weekend Wear. HAMMERD weekendwear.com. Check them out. So next, the general updates. I kind of thought, I know some of you are going to be like, dude, when's he going to stop talking about it? But last episode, I had Michael on, and Michael was the connection that connected me to Daniel Jordan, who took the photos, the iconic photos of Dre for the Chronic. So that included the zigzag cover headshot photo and what I refer to as the lowrider photo. When I got finished with that episode, I kind of thought to myself, well, we talked to Michael a lot about kind of what happened, but I don't think I ever said boom, boom, boom. So here's the quick general update. Daniel, if you listen to that episode, Michael, if you listen to that episode, he was the guy that was doing the vlogs, like he mentioned, right after his mom had passed away. So, me and my countless research, I go and I stumble across one of his videos because he had Daniel Jordan, who he mentioned became his friend. So I commented on the video and I was like, yo, I'm going to Los Angeles in a couple months. Is there any way you could check with Daniel to see if he remembered where those photos were taken? So a lot of times in this whole pop culture stuff, the intel has to come from the photographer or someone that was there. So, like, I've seen people that are big Saved by the Bell fans, they'll reach out to the cast and go, yo, season 1, do you remember where that was filmed? Oh, that was on stage such and such at Warner Brothers, or, oh, that was on stage such and such at... That intel comes from the people that were there or participating. So, the way YouTube is, you could throw a comment out there and never hear back. Well, Michael, he was cool enough to come back and respond. And I don't check on my personal YouTube. I don't usually go back in there. I mean, I get notifications, but it's like new videos and stuff like that. So I just happened one day, a couple weeks later, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back out because I had saved the video. And he goes, yo, yeah, shoot me an email, And I was, at the time, trying to line up the photos and stuff, and I was like, man, is this going to be easy? So, from the jump, Michael was always cool about, yo, Daniel's my homie, I'll ask him whatever you need, and then he's ultimately who got Daniel in touch with me. I kind of mentioned this, I think, in one of the last couple episodes. The guy that took the photos of the Chronic, I ended up talking to him for about 30 to 35 minutes, him and his wife, super cool, and he did say in the future he'd be willing to come on. He's taken a lot of iconic photos, and if you look back at the cover art for the last episode, the photo, I was able to find it, of Michael with Daniel, and then they're holding the photo that was taken of Dre and Snoop in the deep cover era. So, pretty cool stuff. And again, I know some of you are like, I roll, that's not my thing. Hey, I totally get it. But remember, our lifestyle podcast, OLP, I did always want this to kind of expand, right? The OLP universe, as I call it, or OLP verse. It's a lot of stuff that make up what we all love. Mini trucks are at the core, but music, old school BMX, skateboarding, clothes, shoes, all of this stuff kind of comes together in my mind. And of course, Death Row Records kicks off 30 years ago. Technically in 91, I know last year there were a lot of, Death Row shirts, LA, 1991, totally get it. But really, if you think about it, the company may have formed then, but Nine Deuce, as they say, that was really when it popped off. And we're up on the 30th anniversary. I mentioned, was it last episode, Mike got that part trivia question of what the next Snoop and Dre album is going to be called. And we talked about that in the last episode. So anyways, the general updates this week brought to you by Joey at Get Decked. If you want to check out some cool stuff that Joey's doing, go on Instagram, type in Get, and you'll see Get_Decked VA. If you're a show promoter, or if you want to hook up your main squeeze, hit up Joey. He could take a photo and or artwork and put it on his skate deck. Now, these are fantastic to hang on a wall, stick on your mantle, put in the garage, or let your kids skate it if you really want. Pretty cool stuff. Get_Decked VA. That's Joey Dilworth. Hit him up and let him know that OLP sent you. And if you're a show promoter and you've got a big badass show like Lone Star Throwdown, get you some decks. People love this stuff. We all do. And again, we talk about this stuff all the time on OLP. So the last episode recap, again, I kind of already did that with the general updates, but I did want to thank Michael for coming on again. I did tag his personal and his professional Instagram if you want to check those out. Anytime I do the cover art, or the episode art rather, I always try to go and tag those guests. So I would encourage you, if there's stuff that you like, maybe it's a guest, you want to see more of their stuff, follow them, do what you may, check them out. I always try to tag them. If I don't tag them, maybe I don't know their Instagram. So feel free to tag people. I do my best, but I don't know every Instagram name. Maybe about 98% of them, but not every one of them. And speaking of the last episode recap, I want to thank Lone Star Throwdown. I mentioned them just a moment ago. LoneStarThrowdown.com has all the details for their upcoming 11th anniversary event, which, oh, by the way, is going to be at the towards the end of February next year, 128 days from this recording. The registrations are sold out, but you could still come out to the Lone Star Expo Center February 24th through the 26th. As a spectator, there's plenty of vendors there. There's plenty of networking that you can do. OLP will be there. Other podcasts as well. Great kinfolk. Ronnie from C10 Talk Media, or Truck Talk Media, rather. A lot of good stuff. LoneStarThrowdown.com. So this week, I am going to try to hit up Ruben Arteaga, the Booka. It's been a minute, and I do want to link up with him. Miggity Mike the Mayor's out gallivanting. I was kind of gallivanting. I had to adjust my schedule this week a little bit to get with Nick. Not that it was going to be difficult, but he had some stuff going on, and I wanted to be able to squeeze this in. Oh, by the way, it is my son's born day week, 10/20 of 2005. My son was born. I can't believe I'm going to have a 17-year-old this week, and we're going to spend some time with him on Thursday. My wife and I took off on Friday. He's probably still going to have to go to school, but I got to get some things done, get some tires on my truck, do some things, and then maybe go see a movie, maybe go to Busch Gardens, really just have a fun-filled weekend. Not that a teenager wants to hang out with his parents, right? But we'll try to, pull him along to a couple things. So Biggity Mike the Mayor is out this week, and he might be out again. I know I always hint at this, but with this performance, I did talk to him briefly, and I just said, Mike, listen, man, dude, I got a lot of complaints. I mean, dude, I had to put a lot of beeps in there, and I edited out about 10 or 20 cuss words before I decided to do the beeps, because I just said, hey, I want people to hear what a lunatic this guy is. So with that being said, I'll call Ruben in just a few minutes, and I'll ask him the trivia question, which is brought to you by AccuAir. Visit AccuAir.com if you want the best in air management. ACCU Air, AccuAir.com. They have merchandise for sale as well. So we'll ask Ruben that question just in a little bit. So it wouldn't be an OLP episode without the scene updates, and I have tried to spend a little bit more time on social media. Sometimes I feel like I'm constantly on social media, and other times I feel like I'm missing out. So I think that's the one big thing about social media. It just somehow reels us back in. This one, I just clicked on Facebook.com on my computer, and I see Colin Haggy. Man, I'm sorry, dude. He said one of those days, the S10, where Beltec had contributed, paint job, wheels, Street Trucks had covered some of this, but Colin, he was in a fender bender. It looks like someone rear-ended that real awesome S10, and fear not, you're a mini trucker at heart, and that just means you can do more stuff now, and I know it sucks, but it looks like the truck wasn't damaged too bad, so keep your head up, dude, and just know that kind of could mean more mods and hopefully some more work, but again, I know that can be definitely very frustrating. I did see that John Turner from You Ain't Low Trucks, he had sold his Marvy, which is the super rare Mazda. That's one of two that we know in the country. He looks like he sold it to Matt Daly. So is Matt going to daily it? I don't know. But shout out to John. I know he's been trying to sell that for a minute, and it's cool that it's going in to some good hands. I've also noticed Custom Truck Mags. They do have an Instagram, so I wanted to mention that. This is the Japan Mini Truck Magazine. I know Mikado. He's my main plug over there, one of my severed brothers, and they're still doing the damn thing. But it's Custom Trucks with an S mag, Custom Trucks Mag. They've got about 1,000 followers, and this magazine is getting a little bit easier. I know Chuck Healy, a.k.a. Redbeard, he's our main plug here in the U.S., others as well, but they are sharing a few things, and that was pretty cool, so I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that. I shared recently number one issue I'd love to own one day, has the famous MIC, Master Image Custom Mazda, on the cover that was built and shipped over to Japan. It's the first issue of Truck Trends. The other thing I wanted to mention, kind of a show update, but I got to give it up, man, to the family Jamie Starling and kinfolk out in Australia, down under, Mark Larkin and all of the kinfolk down there, Jasmine, Toasty, you name it. They graciously partnered up with us, and I want to give a shout out. Their upcoming show is November 11th, 12th, and 13th, 2022. Now you're thinking, hey, where the hell's the show at? ECC The Compound is what they call it. East Coast Cruise The Compound is what it stands for. And it is in Down Under. Okay, so it's in Australia. Talk about a cruise, right? If you want to go, book a flight. But on Facebook, I think they're a little bit more active. It's, I don't even know how to say it. Jenna Bean, NSW Australia, okay? And I don't know if they're super active on social media. It doesn't look like, yes, they are. Okay, so East Coast Cruise. Now, I found them on Instagram under East Coast Cruise altogether, just how it sounds. And then I clicked the link in their bio. That took me over to their main East Coast Cruise nonprofit org for Facebook. And they are sharing a few things. But if you're over there in Australia, go give these guys a huge fist bump. They're doing some cool stuff. They've got some cool graphics. I love, whoever they're partnering with. I know Jamie, he does a lot of this stuff too, and just love seeing it. So they're kind of all trying to get back to normal down there, as I understand. So go check them out if you can. If nothing else, you can follow the hashtag. If you look at our social media, when I tag them, the hashtag is ECC The Compound altogether. And you can follow that hashtag, and that'll help bring together some of those curated posts and whatnot. But big ups to everybody down there, our fam, a lot of good kinfolk, and we love that mini trucking is such a big thing there in Australia, a.k.a., as I always say, down under. Those are the scene updates this week. I know it's not a lot, but the scene updates are brought to you by GarageGearClothing.com. You say, hey, ODB, you guys promote a lot of stuff. Well, this is the only brand that I know that we promote, GarageGearClothing.com, that has free shipping. So the holidays are coming. Maybe those born days are creeping up on you for your main squeeze. Go to GarageGearClothing.com and order today. Free shipping in the good old US of A on all US of A orders. GarageGearClothing.com. Again, free shipping. So check this out. There's no key show updates, right? So I'm keeping it a little shorter. And last week I mentioned the Decorverse, so if you want more information on that and you haven't listened, go back and check it out. There's another show that we thought was going to be gone, but it's back. I'm back from the future, Doc. I think Sparks in the Park is back from the past, and they're going to be back next September, so in about a year. Now, I do say no key show updates, and I covered that one. I did also talk to Corey. So Mini Truck Showdown is TBD for next year. All I can share is that. If I get more information, that was the Vegas show that was canceled this year. I hate to hear that. But, here's the thing. There's more important stuff in life, and I always say this. I always try to preach this stuff. So just know that as soon as we get information, we'll let you know. That would have been kind of June of 2023 would have been their next event. They also have Kern County Showdown, which was on target to be a year from this February. So February 2022, they had it out there in Bakersfield. My understanding is it's TBD, and we don't know what will happen with next February. So we often say this, if you want to go to shows and you want to network and you want to get out there and hang out with the kinfolk, like many of us love doing, go to these shows while you can, because there's no guarantee they're going to stay around. Even shows that have been around a long time, there's no guarantee. We see them dropping like flies all the time. So get out there and do what you can. Although we don't have many of the key show updates this week brought to you by the West Coast Influence, you can visit minitruckfilm.com. Yes, you heard that right, minitruckfilm.com. Documentary style DVD or Blu-ray you can purchase for your significant other. Go to shop, add the Blu-ray DVD or the custom 620 Nissan Hot Wheels to your cart. Check out and let them know in the notes that OLP sent you. Radar and team, good kinfolk, minitruckfilm.com. All right, so no podcast updates this week, and that's a rarity. So no podcast updates this week, but we got to thank Graphics Mafia. Someone hit me up the other day, and they go, yo, who's your graphics guy for all your stickers and stuff that reprints them all and that can make the old stickers new again? Graphics Mafia, Graphix, graphics with an X, mafia.com. They're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, I believe. You can hit them up. They can take an old decal. They can reproduce it. If you're kind of looking like maybe a one-off, they can do it. They do light design work as well, Graphics Mafia. All right, Airhead Nation updates. I do have a couple that I want to share. And here is one. I love kind of sharing some of the stuff. Mark Bishop. He said, I would like to wish my beautiful wife and best friend and loving mother a big happy anniversary. So congrats to them. Mark was recently on the podcast, one of the best guys you'll meet. Old school at heart, but, keeping it real deal Holyfield with the mini trucks. We had him on recently. We talked about the Mazda. We talked about the S-Dime. Good kinfolk. Here's another guy that I know from building the S10, Chris Latham. Chris worked at Ron Francis Wiring, celebrating 20 years with the wonderful lady, and he's a good dude. I last saw him at Southern Tradition, which is a great show up in Canton, Georgia, every July-ish. And Chris is a good dude. He came out to that show. I know his wife has battled through some health things and they're loving life, and I love seeing it. That's what's the most important. Health, family, maybe the career in there a little bit to kind of keep everything going, but family first, health first always, and big ups to Chris. Speaking of big ups, dude, Adam Tarbox. This day 10 years ago, he married his best friend and love of his life, Adam. Real deal Holyfield, hardcore mini trucker, acrophobia, good kinfolk. Those are a couple I saw. And Johnny Garage Johnson, recent guest, he says, we found out our Zoe has bone cancer. She really went downhill in the last week. She's lost control of her front legs. Please send some prayers and good vibes. So our loved ones, our four-legged loved ones, are oftentimes true family members. So Johnny Garage Johnson, let's hope for the best there with the pup. All dogs do go to heaven, but we want to spend as much time as we can with them. The Airhead Nation updates are brought to you by C&S Metalworks. That's also cs-metalworks.com. Or on Instagram, CS Metalworks. Hit up Chris and team if you need AccuAir, if you need Universal Air, or any other products that you can think of. Chris can take care of you. In fact, when I ordered some parts recently for my Lincoln, that I can't wait for Jimmy's Rod and Customs to bag, I hit up Chris and I said, yo, dude, this is what I need. This is what I'm thinking. He goes, yo, let me make some phone calls, dog. Sure enough, boom, the stuff arrived exactly when I needed. Great customer service, great customer support, cs-metalworks with an S.com. They'll take care of you, whether you want some electric valves or bags. Hit them up, see what they say. So a little bit shorter of an intro. What I'm going to do is wrap this section. We are going to go ahead and call Ruben Arteaga to check in with him a few minutes, and then we'll lead in to the audio with Nick Crouch from Surface DVD, a.k.a. Surface Nick. Good dude, a lot of history in the scene, and much respect to him. Stay on the rise, be safe this weekend, and enjoy the cooler weather. Most importantly, stay safe with the fam. We got you. Peace. Dude, man, bro, did you see Hank on TMZ the other day, Ruben? Dude, that guy's a lunatic.
Dude, I thought it was Mike. That whole thing from last week, I was going to call Mike and see if he's okay and see if, I need to go bail him out of jail. What a train wreck.
Bro, I had to reprimand him, dude. I said, bro, he said dude and bro like more times than we've ever heard. So, here's the thing.
Do I need to go out for an intervention? I mean, if I have to, just tell me.
I'm telling you, man, he's talking all kinds of nonsense about some, I don't think he was ever in a hurricane vehicle, but we'll have to see, man.
Yeah, well, just wait. Dude, if I need to go, dude, just call me. Just let me know.
And no doubt. So check this out, Ruben. I was flipping through some magazines the other day, and we've always talked about, back in the day, you did help Mini Truckin' some with some write-ups and photos. Do you ever have the good thoughts of when you had the white truck that was on the cover of Mini Truckin'?
Hey, you know what, Jay? It's funny that you sent that to me because I believe it or not, that all kind of slipped my mind there for a little bit, but I had a blast back. Mike used to let me do a bunch of freelancing here and there, and even at shows. The way all that all started was we were at a show one day, and I picked up his camera, and he gave me a couple of rolls of film. Like, dude, go shoot the show. And I ended up shooting the show for him, and he ran it. And then shortly thereafter, he's like, "Hey, dude, do you want to shoot tech for me?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He told me what he wanted. He told me what he needed. And, of course, he helped me out here and there with some of the writing and, the tips behind the camera and whatnot. And usually on my days off from my other job, I would go and I would do tech. And a lot of it was on, like, my own truck or on one of his trucks or whatever. But, yeah, dude, I had a great time doing that.
Yeah, it's good times, man. You made me think of Recipes Biz Markie when he's like, "I got what you need," and Mike was like, "Yo, man, I need some stuff, man. Can you get it?" And you're like, "Yo, I got it, man. What you need? Some photos?"
Yeah, and it was kind of, it filled my need to kind of want to be doing all that, but yet still be able to live at home and not travel, but yet I was able to kind of, live vicariously that way through all that. But yeah, man, definitely did.
Yeah, crazy stuff. Well, I know we kind of started like in the middle of what we normally get into, but things have been good since you got back. I heard from the cruise, and we can't talk about too much there at C&S Metalworks, but I do know you guys are grinding hard. Are you guys trying to get ready for like the S word, or is it the D word with the other show?
Well, okay. Well, first and foremost, I was gone for a week. I went to a cruise with my girlfriend. She took me on a cruise to Mexico, and out of nowhere, man, I told you the story. She just said, "Get your passport." It didn't even tell me what days, and and I told her, I'm like, "So do I got to tell Chris, what days I'm gonna be gone?" She told me, "No, I already talked to him."
Damn.
So she kind of went behind my back and said, "Hey, Ruben needs these days off," and and later after the fact, I'm like, "Dude, is this cool?" And he's like, "Yeah, bro, just go have a good time." So I was, after being gone for a week, on a cruise and on vacation, and I got back and haven't looked back since. And we're kind of trying to get this thing to SEMA, but we couldn't really find anyone. So we've been working hard to have it at Dino's. So, we're working hard. We're burning the midnight oil, so to say, and we'll see.
And you guys are no stranger at C&S Metalworks to that, because I think of the ice cream van. What's the official name? Because, I can't really say it like you can, like that ring off the tongue.
La Buchona.
Yeah, dude. Like, I don't want to get in trouble, or knocked out for saying that. You know what I'm saying? But
right.
But you guys burned the midnight oil last year, and it came, dude. The light was shining, bro, at SEMA.
Yeah. We had a lot of we had a really, really good response with that one, and I know we will with this one as well. And I really. I know it's gonna be a super nice, clean truck when it's all said and done. And I'm really excited for the owner, Tim, the guy that owns us. I mean, he's been coming by, checking it out, just to see how he is excited of the turnout, of how this is turning out. I mean, it's cool. It's definitely a good feeling.
You ever have the feeling like, mini trucks, there was always wild paint, big stereos, body drop this, chrome that. I mean, it's never a topic that we've delved into, but building a C10 is not an easy kind of thing these days, right? I mean, you can get all the parts, but then, sometimes I kind of feel like, man, are they going to look the same, right? Is there any maybe hint you can kind of give us, like maybe some, is it going to be the detail on this thing? Is it going to be some body mods? Is there any one thing that you guys are going, yo, we're super excited about such and such with this project?
You know what? There's not too many crazy body mods for say on this, but I would say just a little details. I mean, us. I mean,
Yep.
It with us, it's all about the details. I mean, you go and you were to look at the ice cream truck, and there's honestly, you look back at it, and you take two steps back, and you kind of start looking at it. and you start noticing just little things that pop out to you. And I'm going to say the same thing about this. I mean, it is a 62 C10, and it's got a lot of little subtle changes to it. Nothing that's just going to slap you in the face, but just a lot of little subtle changes that we've done to it, and things that the owner wanted. Cool. He's had a lot of input on it, and I'm glad we were able to make those things happen.
Was there any truth to Hank texting me, Hank from over at Hammer Weekend Wear, saying that it's going to have like crushed velvet interior, or no?
It might. It might. We're just going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, that's the thing. You gotta just keep pushing through it. And we love that you guys always do that over there. Do I dare say it's October, right? It's mid-October, and we're starting to see a little bit of hint. Now, I think it's going to be gone in a snap. I know it's hot over there. I was just over there not too long ago. You guys starting to see a little bit of the cooler weather, or is it still like the desert?
Man, Jay, you know what? This past weekend here, it was cold. It was cold and raining. We had a thunderstorm roll through here Saturday evening, Saturday afternoon, and man, it was chilly. Same thing with in the mornings. You could tell it's that time of year here where it's like in a transition for some reason, like around since I was a kid, since come late October, early November, it's usually around the time that the season starts changing, and hopefully it stays that way, because man, we had a hot humid summer.
Yeah, dude, it's where a lot of us are ready for that little bit of a break. And it's ironic because when winter comes around, which we don't have much of it here, but I'm always excited for the summer because I'm like, I want to get back in the water, maybe get on the water and do some of those things. But we get to this point of the year and we're like, man, we just want to like leave our backsliding glass door open for a couple hours and get a little breeze coming through.
No kidding. And, let that high electricity bill take a rest there,
Yeah, no kidding, dude. It's like, come on, man. I'm ready to start getting some box fans going and just, turn off the AC.
Right. But, again, this time of year, it's probably my favorite time of year here. And again, the year's starting to wind down, and, again, we take off for Vegas for a year, and then we got Dino's, and then again, Thanksgiving and Christmas. And, it's, then we start doing it again. We start planning out a year again. So, definitely this coming New Year is going to be very, very busy and interesting for us here.
Yeah, I keep trying to convince Chris to let me have that 60 Impala that's in the shop there, dude. That bare metal masterpiece, and I know that's that guy. The owner of that thing is super stoked, I bet.
Oh yeah, he is, and I mean, there's a lot of stuff to that car that you didn't even probably get a chance to see or look at. I mean, no. Yeah, that is a nice car. It's got to be a nice car.
Oh yeah, and then let's not forget, you guys bagged that 59 Impala. Man, that thing was so sick. I know you had your hands on it, and it's always cool to see, like, there's a good mix of vehicles coming out of C&S Metalworks. And what city are you guys technically again? You're outside of Riverside, right?
Right. We are, I guess this would be Fontana. We're actually right down the street from California Speedway. Yeah,
so how ironic was this? I posted, it was 20 years ago on 10/20 of 2002, Severed Oktoberfest. And Bob Grant and team, they had the Tacoma that looks with the Ballard theme to it. And it said, my intel said it was at Fontana Speedway, but that was the one that I passed when I visited the shop a few weeks ago, right?
Right. Yeah, that's right down the street. Yeah, I remember that show was right there. Yeah.
Damn, I didn't even realize that, man. And when I passed that place, I was like, damn, that's a big-ass track. And I kind of assumed that it was NASCAR, but, I was trying to pay attention to the road, I mean, Hank, he always tells me, he goes, whatever you do, keep your eyes on the road, man.
Yeah, that's good advice, especially coming from him.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Well, remember last year he was trying to get my kid to drive around in the Hammer Dually, so when we were in Arizona, so.
Yeah, and there's that one story we can't tell where he kind of did the Grand Theft Auto and went over the curb, and he was somehow on the track there, I heard, in Fontana.
Right, yeah, though there's that.
Yeah, so, yeah. I mean, it's like some things we have to wait for the limitations to be up,
Right.
Because we don't want to self-indict anyone, you know. I mean, Mike does a good job in doing that. Well,
you don't want to get Ron in trouble.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I texted him, by the way, the other day. He said he's doing good, and you know, I was glad to hear that. And speaking of Riggedy Ron, I also text Jeff from Mini Garage, and I know Jeff is out there slinging Mazda parts like no tomorrow, dude. He's basically. He didn't say it like this, but, I mean, you know the guy. You know, there was the guy, like Noriega, right? And then who was the other guy that kept breaking out of prison? Not Hank, but El Chapo.
El Chapo.
Yeah, so El Chapo. So I think Jeff from Mini Garage said, yo, we're going to be the Noriega and El Chapo of Mazda parts, right? He's taken over, and he said, yo, if anybody tries to step on our turf, and I go, yo, man. And so he goes, you better start promoting my shit. I go, hey, no problems here, man. Just send me some parts.
Yeah, you know, and Jacob wants to get rid of that car and get a Toyota truck. And I was thinking about calling Jeff and see if he could find me one. But, you know, that's one of those things where, man, I'd love to make that phone call. But and on the other side of that coin, I kind of don't want to. Because I know knowing with what he's come up with, I know he could probably find me something. And it's just, I better not make that call. You know what I mean?
Yeah, next thing you know, you'll be like, yo, Jay, let's do a proposal. I'll be like, let's do it, dog.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
Yeah, so the other thing that I wanted to mention was talking about Toyota. So Robert Kamalski, speaking of Toyotas, Robert we had on recently, his name was Tall Guy, right? That's what he goes by. And that was his nickname. He had texted me when I met Brian from SoCal Customs last year at SEMA. You know, Brian had just mentioned, you know, the last ride and kind of, you know, shutting down the website and whatnot. Well, there was the tie-in where Brian from SoCal Customs ended up gifting a truck over to Robert and his son, right? So Robert, although he's not on social media at all, he had been texting me just different photos, you know, different updates and different things. And it's really cool. Like, he's so thankful from Brian Frost at SoCal Customs for, you know, hooking him up with the truck, dude. And it's really coming along, man. So it is cool to see it. We're talking about like a mid-90s style build that he's doing with the son. So it's great, isn't it, to hear that the younger crowd does a little bit get involved with the minis.
Right, most definitely, especially in this day and age where there's a lot of kids out there that don't have the desire to get a driver's license, let alone, you know, go outside and wrench on a car.
Yep. Yeah, exactly, man. And, you know, to see it, you know, this little mini, and he said they even painted it in the driveway. Now, you know, of course, he said, you know, don't say that on the air because, you know, we could have some people coming over here saying we can't do that. But he's like, yo, we painted my kid's Toyota last week. First complete vehicle I painted. Shot it in the driveway. It's a perfect 10-footer, man. And I looked at it and I was like, damn, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, so when I was painting all of my stuff, I was doing it in the backyard of my parents' house, and I was under the impression back then, as long as you were doing it for like your own, you know, for yourself, I mean, and not making any money on it, you could do whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
That stuff.
And Hank always said like he would huff the paint fumes, but when I was a kid and I would watch G.I. Joe, they would do the PSAs, the public service announcements, and they always said, yo, Joe, if you're spraying the spray paint, you know, you need to have some ventilation, you know. So I always thought, you know, maybe I just need to let it air out a little bit, you know.
That is Hank for you.
But yeah, dude, shout out to Robert. Good dude. Got to link back up with him in the future, but you know, even my son being, I mentioned earlier, he's going to be 17 this week, and it's so crazy, you know, with Jacob, you know, where he's at, and these kids kind of getting their first vehicles and stuff. Some want to drive, some don't, some want to be on the computers. But I told my son, yo, you got to live, man. You got to get out there. You got to experience stuff, and when you do that, you experience the world. It kind of gets you grounded on, you know, you gotta kind of be street smart. You know what I mean? Right.
We'll let him hang around Hank for a little bit.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, it's like he could almost offer a class. I know. I mean, dude, he could almost offer a class, dude. You like $100 an hour just to kind of teach you how to live, man.
Man, that, yeah. Yeah, maybe a class in prison or something.
Yeah, and one of the first things he teaches is to stay away from Don Dizzy Davis from the Spark Show, and kind of in with Hammer Weekend Wear, and then in with the Custom Scene podcast. So at least he's given some good advice.
Right.
But last thing before I let you go, man, the Hillbillies. I hate to say that word because I feel like that's a bad word. They're over there killing it, loving their content and stuff, and it's cool to see. You and I talked about a couple years ago. We don't know all that history of those areas, right? Those pockets, and it's really good, in my opinion, that we've got people like Mini Truck Colt and LCD and Future Mini Trucker Podcast and LCD and OLP and Downwit, OPP. We got all of the acronyms going, but it's cool, isn't it, Ruben? All these years later to see the scene thriving.
Oh yeah, I dig it. I totally love it. All these different podcasts. I mean, this is what I listen to every day here at the shop. I mean, if it's not, our favorite Hillbillies or, Jamie and Denise, or, anyone else. I mean, I'm listening to, some sort of comedian or automotive related or whatever. I mean, but that's my go-to is some sort of mini truck inspired podcast.
Yeah, and we got to somehow get you as a plant and get you over, maybe we'll tell LMC and team and be like, yo, we got to get Ruben on, right? Then you go over there and try to kind of derail everything, then you come back and report over here, and see what's going down. But in all seriousness, we do need to get you on over there and throwing down with the Hillbillies. That'd be cool. But
oh man, I would love to.
Yeah, it's always good, man. And I can't believe, knock on wood, we're all kind of getting to another year around the sun, dude, and especially the clubs, 30, 31, 32 years and things like that. And it's crazy. But as they're going to hear in a few minutes, we're going to roll into the audio with Nick at Surface Art. And to me, what the cool thing is, many of us have been doing this stuff for a long time, but it's still in our blood. We may not be able to go to every show. We may not be able to crisscross the country every week, but it's still in our blood, ain't it, man?
Oh, it sure is. I mean, here we are, dude, here we are. Some of us, are in our 40s or 50s or even older than that. And we're still involved. We're still doing, something related to it, and dude, that's awesome. That's awesome. Whether it's a podcast or whether, you're getting your hands dirty or whatever. I mean, it's still, you didn't venture too far from it.
Real deal.
You're still doing something you like.
That's it. Hey, I'm going to hit you with a trivia question this week, dude, because we didn't get to ask Mike earlier because Mike's gallivanting. And it's
go for it.
This is an easy one, but I think it's going to blow your mind, okay?
Now it's time to get serious.
And it ties into mini trucking. So we said earlier the trivia with Mike brought to you by AccuAir. Visit AccuAir.com for merchandise, including the best in air management for your vehicle, AccuAir.com. But check this out. So this one's going to maybe blow your mind, right? Possibly. So I'm getting ready to go through issue 76 of Mini Truckin' Magazine. There's an orange Astro van on it, not Shartz's van. It was an orange Astro van that came in April 98. But here's the trivia question. I'm not going to give you any hints. How many Astro vans landed on the cover as the cover vehicle, right? Not an insert photo or anything like that. I mean, we're talking the main cover vehicle. Yeah, 269 issues of Mini Truckin', Ruben. Your guess, how many Astro vans were on the cover?
Man.
Two of them were RA. You had Shartz's van and you had Elder's van, which Craig Elder, for those that didn't know, technically was an RA. That's the only clue.
Okay. Oh, those two, of course. I'm going to say cover Mini Truckin'. Man, dude, honestly, maybe 3.
Dude, you nailed it.
Did I really?
It's, dude, literally. This is the crazy thing. I was wondering if you were going to just go, like, I thought you were just going to go 10, right? There were only 3.
I was swinging for fences, dude. Wow.
Dude, so there was December 95, Orange Envy, which was Shartz's, I believe.
Right.
Sean Carlson and Shartz's shot it. Then you had 98 April, which is the one I'm getting ready to go over. Astro, that was the orange Astro with the Those were the inky wheels.
Right.
Then,
right.
Then the only other one was the other orange one, which was Craig Elder's So Bad, right? SOBAAD. That was the at SEMA 98. That was January 01. So you had 3. Dude, it's hard to believe because, Astrovans were highly shot and featured, but they just, believe it or not, they weren't on the cover that much, and it's just kind of mind-blowing to me, but it is what it is.
You know what? Believe it or not, I'll be honest with you, I thought it was going to be more closer to 5, but I just couldn't. That orange van that you're talking about, I believe that was built for export, and it was built by an export company, and it went straight to Japan.
Yep. Yeah. I think you're right, if I remember correctly. Now, technically, I know there's going to be people out there that are going to say, well, no, you're wrong. There was one more, which we know is Copes. That was technically a GMC Safari in 86, if I believe. So really 4, but technically, 3 Astrovans and then 1 Safari. So give or take 3, 4. You guys know. You know what we're saying.
Yeah, dude, I was swinging. That was just a Hail Mary right there.
Well, not that Mike's going to ever get a chance to come back on OLP, because, every time he comes on, he just wants to talk about Eastbound Get Down, and I don't even know if I'm going to go to that show in January, Destination Daytona. It's kind of like, I don't know, man. If the Packers could win, I might actually have a playoff game. If they don't, I don't know, man.
I at this point, I just want to go just people watch, just to kind of watch a train wreck. To be honest with you,
well, Hank,
but that's just me.
Hank's gonna be there.
Hey, edit that out of
right. Oh yeah, that'll never make it.
Yeah,
but yeah. Someone is saying that it's January 13th through the 15th, 2023, Destination Daytona Complex. I'm definitely not going, dude. You know what I mean? Unless you float in.
Oh, maybe I could convince Chris to go out there with me.
Yeah, tell Chris, say, yo, Jay came to the west side, and he was doing the Severed walk on us. We need to fly out there and do the C&S Metalworks walk on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that might just have to happen there.
Yo, give Chris and the crew our best. Tell Jacob we said what up. And Ruben, anything else, man?
No, man, I'm good. I got to get back to work here.
Yeah.
Chris is starting to give me dirty looks.
Dude, I'm telling you, brother, get back, do your thing, and we'll link up again soon, brother.
All right, brother, man. You take care.
Everyone enjoy the audio. We're going to roll into Nick Crouch from Surface Art. Enjoy it. Surface Nick. Peace out. Hey, as I said, I'm super excited to sit down with a guy that's been on our list a long time, and I'm so thankful that when I hit Nick up, he goes, yo, I'll do it. But Nick at Surface Art, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Thanks for asking. Man, dude, I definitely have a lot on my mind. I think some cool stuff to talk about. But for the listeners out there, I always got to ask this. Would you mind just, giving us a little bit of background on, who are you, Nick?
Thanks. I've been doing artwork for most of my life, and I actually got introduced to the car scene through just random people that I met through friends, and it's been a crazy ride ever since. I think I've basically been doing car stuff for I want to say since like 2001. I got like my first vehicle and I did a rendering of it because my friend showed me how to use Photoshop. And as soon as I did that, I had other people hitting me up about it. And then I started getting connected with people in the vehicle scene doing that stuff.
Yeah, and that was kind of, I don't want to say pre-social media, but, websites were big then. I think that's the key word I'm thinking of, like websites and whatnot, AOL Instant Messenger, a little bit of Street Source in that era.
Yeah, actually, before Street Source, I got started on Car Domain.
Oh yeah, I remember
that.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, that's where I started getting connected to people with vehicles.
Yeah, that's where you're slinging the drugs, I'll call it, which is the artwork, which I love.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about like where you grew up. I mean, were you influenced by, the California has a big car culture and stuff, but I'm always kind of curious, was there an influence from your area that you grew up?
Well, I grew up in like Phoenix, Arizona,
okay.
And I've been here my whole life.
Yep.
It's similar to the culture in California, especially because it's a short drive to go to any show in California. It's like 4-hour drive. But it's very similar. Maybe not as wild as the people were in California because they got a little bit more money to spend than we do.
Balling out there, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it was really similar.
Yeah, in a good area, because if I think, I talked to Brian from Grinder TV, and you start talking about all the different clubs, the art of noises, if you will, and so there's a lot of stuff that are severed. Obviously, California/Arizona, big presence of NC, but there's a lot of clubs, a lot of different shows. So that's interesting. When you kind of hinted, you got into it. Did you find yourself like in high school, like drawing stuff? You were taking art classes, or did you know at a young age, like, dude, I can draw anything?
Well, you can probably tell in some of my artwork. I actually started out as I wanted to be a comic book illustrator.
Okay.
And so a lot of the stuff I do now still has that comic kind of style to it. I slowly realized that there wasn't a lot of job opportunities doing comic books. And so I branched out and I started drawing like all kinds of things. Like I was doing photorealistic drawings of people. I don't think I did my first car drawing until around 2000 when I was probably like senior in high school.
Really interesting.
And that was around the same time that I got introduced to Photoshop. My buddy Will Freeman, he has the purple Nissan 720.
Yes.
I've been friends with him since high school, and he showed me how to use Photoshop. Like he was the guy who had Photoshop. I didn't. He showed me how to use it, and I've just been photoshopping everyone's car since then.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And sometimes I'm bad about mentioning the person's last name, so it's Nick and it's Crouch, right? Crouch.
Yes, it's Nick Crouch. People used to call me Nick Crotch.
You're like, I'm that guy. But Nick Crouch, if you go on his website, SurfaceNick, N-I-C-K.com.
It's surfacenick.com. Yep. I'm also, you can find me on Instagram at SurfaceNick.
Oh, yeah.
I think I've got a couple other pages you can check out. Like, I started a TikTok page. I've got a YouTube channel. There's a couple other things on there, but you can access all those through my website.
And then also to piggyback off what Nick said at surfacenick.com, if you go under About Us, you'll see that he did the Cars Yeah podcast. I think that was that was almost 4 years ago.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah, so everybody check that out. Now, I kind of want to get into the meat and potatoes of this interview. A lot of times, we got I'll ask a lot of different stuff about some of where you kind of came from, and we've gotten through that pretty quick. But I remember your name tied to the magazine, right? You were always I don't know if it was freelancer, if it was staff, or what it was, but I want people to know, like, you had some very solid, and I'll bring up a couple later, but some really cool contributions to Mini Truckin. Did you find your way into the magazine through one of the editors?
Yeah, so I was doing renderings for a lot of people, and Mike Alexander had hit me up a couple times. I did some renderings for him. So I was in like a constant connection with Mike. And whenever stuff like that came up where somebody needed to fill in for somebody, he would hit me up. Like, I think the art director at the magazine, she ended up was going to have a baby. So she was going to be out for a couple months or so. Mm-hmm. And he basically hit me up. He's like, hey, you want to come down here and help out for a few months? It turned into 6 months, and she ended up never coming back.
Wow.
But yeah, I was living in California with Mike Alexander. I was staying at his house for those 6 months, and it was a wild, weird time. Like, I was young. I think I was like 25, and it was expensive to be out there in California too.
I know, right? And we all know, Mike, for those that don't know, Mike Alexander, one of the editors, we had him on very early in the podcast. I need to probably revisit that one day. But what was that like? I mean, just being out there. I mean, you guys. I mean, you worked long hours from what we always heard with magazines. You know,
Yeah,
it's
it
not all the
was.
glitz and glamour that everyone thinks.
No, we worked a lot. Like it was a building. They had multiple magazines working in the same building, and we had an entire the all the magazines had an entire floor to themselves. And it was just me and Mike Alexander for a little while, and then Ernie Macias joined on while I was there.
Yeah, rest in peace, Ernie.
And so it was just the three of us working on the magazine. They had some freelance photographers, but Mike would write stuff, Ernie would write stuff and take photos, and then I would put it all together. Like I would put the entire magazine together in 30 days.
Yeah, it's
And
insane.
I'd never done that stuff before either.
Yeah, and for people, and I kind of wanted to do this more even with Chris over at Street Trucks, but you know, when I think there's a huge thing that people just don't realize on how all that gets pulled together. And, you know, take us back to those days. Were you using, like today it almost seems easier, right? Because, I mean, you know this, everything is at people's fingertips with software.
Yeah,
Were you using
the
stuff that made your
software.
job easy?
Oh, I was using a Mac. I hate Macs, so that was like a nightmare. But the software we were using, I can't remember what it was called off the top of my
Yeah,
head.
yeah.
The software was easy. I figured it out pretty quick. It made it easy to put the whole magazine together. It's just the amount of content and double checking, having everyone improve stuff. That was the part that took the most time and was the most stressful, is making sure you've got an entire magazine done in 30 days.
Right,
And
right.
but yeah, we would go there. I think it was like regular work hours, like 8 in the morning. Sometimes we would stay till like 9 o'clock at night if we had to like make sure stuff was getting done on time.
Then go hit some In-N-Out
And
burger after or something.
yeah, well, we were right across the street from a couple of restaurants like that, and we would just walk down there and grab some food. But it's also an hour and a half drive to and from work. So
Damn.
you spend like 2 to 3 hours in the vehicle some days too.
You're like, dude, if only I could have had my iPhone drawing shit on it, your Android, you know, back then. Um, Talk to us about maybe you may not recall, but you know, maybe a funny story. Rest in peace to Ernie. You mentioned his name. Is there one
Mhm.
maybe memory that comes back that you just go maybe brings a smile to your face? Something funny that happened?
Yeah, it wasn't at the magazine, but it did involve Ernie. We were at shoot, I think it was Drop Zone.
Okay.
I think that's in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
It was a while ago. I think it was like 2007 maybe. Um, Ernie got drunk at that show one night. I filmed him. It's in one of the DVDs. I think it's in our third DVD. And he's just walking around drunk. He's like, "I love you, Nick." I'll never forget that. It's on there.
Yeah, I got to hang out with Ernie a couple times, and anybody. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there, even you, that arguably were way closer. And I tell you, man, he just was a ball to be around. He just was kind of the life of the party. But you know, he never, you know, he was always who he was. You know, to me, the times I was around him, you know, he never. You know, he didn't have to fake anything. It was like Ernie was real deal,
Yeah.
and he just, you know, people loved it and they gravitated towards him. So
Yeah, I remember in the office one day he was super interested in what I was doing with Photoshop, because a lot of times we would touch up the covers and add things or remove things to make the cover like really nice. And he was just interested in that stuff, and I sat down and showed him like the basics of Photoshop in like an hour, and he caught on pretty quick. He was
that's
pretty interested
sick.
in that.
Yeah, and he
But
had
yeah,
a
we did some crazy covers while I was there. Like that was a big deal for me. Is I wanted the covers to be like just really cool. Like just want to grab it off the shelf.
Yeah, and I remember a lot of those. And the ironic thing is, with me, I've been going through every mini truck and issue. We're just about at issue 75 right now. We're doing the flip throughs on our YouTube. And, you know, a lot of times in my database I created, you know, I have the name of all of the photographers, right? So they kind of get the credit for these covers. But I wanted people to know too, like Nick, it's guys like you that were behind the scenes pulling these puppet strings and making things and tweaking things and stuff. And to me, someone like you, or I think it's a typical title, right, of like art director, those folks also play an integral part of producing a magazine.
Yeah, I'd spend probably 10 hours sometimes photoshopping the cover to be unique. I remember there was one issue that I did. It had an S10 Blazer on the cover with crazy graphics, and I hand drew matching graphics for the background and like airbrushed those and stuff. But we did all kinds of weird stuff like that.
Yeah, and that stuff showed, and I think a lot of times, people, they do look at the stuff and go, oh, wow, I bought this for $4 or $5, right? Or even less if you subscribe. But they don't take into account, because, everything's kind of instant society now. You're just like, oh, yeah, whatever. But there is the work, and I wanted people to kind of hear that. Now, something that I thought was cool is, I don't think that John Mata gets enough credit. I know sometimes, folks go, well, he was the last editor and this and that. I'd love to have him on one day. But when I think back to issues 260 and 261, they had a Nissan Hardbody, one of my severed brothers, and then one had a 4Runner, also known as Roadrunner, on it. But in those issues, you had the 25th anniversary posters, and there were back-to-back issues. You had the Nissan, and then you had the old school minis, is what I call it, both by you. Dude, those are so iconic. Can you talk about drawing at least one of them? Because the Nissan one, to me, stands out because of the colors, but the other one's just as epic.
Well, I only remember doing one of those posters. What was the other one?
The other one, I kind of call it old school minis, and there's a guy on it, I think, and his back.
That might have been what's his name?
It made.
Yeah, I only did one of those covers.
Okay.
The hard body driving through the city. That was the one that I did.
Yeah.
And my inspiration on that one was I'm pretty sure there was a matching hard body on the very first issue of the magazine.
Yes, there was. It was very similar to that. Yep.
So basically, I pretended like I took that truck and made it
a new version.
Like if somebody got it in their possession and wanted to bring it back to life, that's basically what I did. Is I took the very first vehicle and kind of made them a little more modern.
Yep. Yeah, definitely sick. And I'm going to have to go grab that issue after we finish, because I could have swore it said, because I remember, I think it had a Nissan 720. I might have had the purple one. And then it maybe had a blue one. I'm going from my memory here. And it just had...
My memory is terrible, too.
Yeah.
Could be right, could
yeah,
be
no,
wrong.
It's all good. But see, I mean, I appreciate your humbleness. You're like, no, I only did the one. But I'll look into that. But yeah, that
sometimes they'll mess up the names on the credits too. I remember that's happened quite a few times.
True. If you go to surfacenick.com, you can actually go and check out. He's got it labeled as hard body. You can even buy the canvas, but that artwork is so epic because to Nick's point, it was the tie back to the kind of that first issue, and we're talking about basically. Give or take, they had just passed the 25 years, but they were still doing some of those kind of throwback type things. And I tell you what, those pull-out posters, man, they're freaking spot on, man.
Yeah, I actually did I did all the posters on the inside of the magazines on the issues that I worked on as well. So I've actually done, I think like 6 or 7 posters for them.
Very cool.
And we would spend just as much time on those as we did on the cover. Yep. A lot of times they were the cover photo. But yeah, that hard body print you can actually order on my website. I did the artwork for them for free, so I don't think they have any ownership of it.
Yeah, and let's be honest, I mean they're not really doing much with any of that stuff, so I'll just kind of
I don't even know who owns the rights to that stuff right now.
Yeah, I know. It seems like it's Motor Trend, and the website, if anybody's listening from there, I mean, that website is like not good. I mean, the only good thing it is for Google Images to be able to find something. You click it, you hit that site, and it kind of locks up. It's not the best, but it is what it is. That's their problem. But I did mention John Mata Jr., and, I think, again, I want to make sure he knows or someone can relay to him that I appreciate his contributions. If you look back at the editors, for those that don't know, John Mata Jr., he was technically the editor for 25 issues. The next closest was actually Mike Shartsis, and he was at 32 issues. So technically, John, he really did a lot in that short amount of time, in my opinion. And for him, or however those pull-out posters came together, Nick, I thought that was a cool add to the magazine at that time.
Yeah, and he had a lot on his plate too. Like they were the people above us, like they were very picky about what went in the magazines, what went on the cover. There was even a time where they're like, okay, we can't do any more green trucks on the cover. It's not allowed. It doesn't sell as well, or something like that.
Yeah,
and he was on at the time when basically magazines were being not as popular too. So he had a lot of work to do.
Oh yeah, and that's something that maybe not everyone totally understands. Now,
a lot of stuff was going digital, and so there wasn't a whole lot he could do to help keep it alive.
Oh yeah. Now, I didn't want to gloss over, so I do want to take a pause and go back. Something that obviously I jumped right to the magazine because my mind was like, hey, I want to ask him this stuff. But if we think about where I first heard your name was through, you said it earlier, Surface DVD. Okay.
Yeah.
There was talk to us a little bit about that and maybe some of the team, because I know that you had some folks that helped.
Yeah. Yeah, it was me, Will Freeman. We went to high school together, and then his sister Lindsay Freeman helped us a lot. She would take pictures. Sometimes we needed 3 angles and somebody else would be filming at the same time. We also had roommates that would help us film stuff and take photos sometimes. That all started. I was in college, and one of my requirement classes was video editing. I just had to do like 6 months of it or whatever.
Wow.
And it was actually really interesting. I wasn't expecting to enjoy it. And I picked up a video camera. We started filming some stuff at some car shows. We started watching other people's DVDs, and we were like, we could do this. Like,
right.
It wasn't that difficult. And that's kind of how that started, is just by accident. And we had like enough content to make a DVD, and we just decided to do that.
Yeah, I own a couple of them, and you saw the passion through the artwork before you even flipped open and popped that DVD. A lot of kids these days, I know I sound old saying that, they'll never experience opening a DVD. How crazy is that? Because everything's digital. But you would experience, when I would see the cover, I was like, damn. And then the way the cinematic films were kind of done in how you guys filmed and stuff. I mean, I would encourage people, if you can get your hands on some. You may even have some still on your website, I would assume, maybe.
I've got a couple that you can still purchase on the website. There's not very many left though, and I don't think we'll be reprinting any of those because we've reprinted them so many times.
Yeah, and the one that's coming to my mind is, because on the website you got a couple, but I remember the one that had it was a white case, but it had the blue Chevy on it that had like the football.
Yeah,
I kind of call it like the football interior.
That's the third DVD. It was like money themed.
Yep.
Or actually, no, that was the second one. It was playing card themed. We had a theme for all this stuff. Our very first DVD was actually in a CD jewel case. And we did that because at the time people were playing videos like in their car.
Yes.
And there's no space. Back then there was no space to put a DVD case in your car, but there was space to put CD cases.
Yeah, like in your console and whatnot.
Yeah, and our stuff was more focused around the music too, so it just made sense to make it almost like a music CD, but there was a DVD inside.
Yeah, we sometimes do the throwback term of the week, and I kind of want to bring that back, and I was thinking about this literally a couple weeks ago. so I'm going to do it now. The throwback term of the week for this week is DVDs in the headrest, dude, or monitors, if you will. But seriously, that stuff, late '90s coming into 2000s, it blew up, and it's so ironic how whether people like Apple or Android, whatever, if you would have said 20 years ago that one day nobody's going to need any entertainment. You're going to have an infotainment system in your dash, right?
Yeah.
But then all the kids are going to have smart devices and tablets and iPads. People would be like, dude, you're freaking crazy. But like the iPads, the Androids, the iPhones kind of killed a lot of that stuff. But the cool thing is you could still consume it on your phone if you wanted to, which is insane. I wanted to mention the evolution of the scene. It's always, and it's not in this particular order, but if you think about it was like magazines, websites started to blow up, DVDs came in roaring with some good ones, including Surface DVD. Websites again, social media, YouTube, podcast, YouTube in there, social media, all that stuff kind of mixes together. You've been through a couple phases, right? If you think about the magazine, you think about the DVDs, and now where you're at, I see you do cool stuff in social media. How important do you think social media is to someone like you that's an artist?
It's right now, honestly, social media is my job. Like, there's been times where my Instagram was like, I'm pretty sure it was getting hacked by somebody or something, and I started to stress out, and I was like, if my account gets stolen, I'm like out of work.
Yeah, you're like, dude, this is
my advertisement.
It's my thumbprint right here,
Yeah, and I spent so much time getting followers on there to basically recommend my work to other people.
Yep.
If without social media, I probably wouldn't have a job, because I am 100% freelance right now, and I rely on my social media getting me like more work, basically.
Oh yeah. Now, something else with Nick Crouch last year, had the pleasure to go into SEMA. I haven't been as many times as some of these guys have, but I had a blast. And towards the end of the week, I had looked over and I was like, man, they got this cool section for artists, it appeared, and they were kind of all, in this one particular area. So I went over and we slapped hands, and I picked up some Lincoln stuff. I love what you do with the drawings and the artwork. How cool is it that SEMA does, as far as I know, I don't know if it's going to continue, they did seem to like really want to help with artists, because they know, artists may not be millionaires, right? We know that they're not these big shops building crazy cars and trucks, but it seemed pretty cool that you were able to set up there and do your thing.
Yeah, they started doing the art walk, I don't know how long ago. It was before I was there, but it's been getting bigger each year. This last year that we went, they made it a lot bigger because there wasn't as many vendors because of COVID. And I feel like they're really starting to notice that the artists do a lot for the scene that is at SEMA. Like, I'd say probably half the vehicles there end up getting renderings or designs done before they're actually built. And it's people like me that are helping make that happen. And it's really cool that they're letting us have like a spot to show off what we can do at the show. Yeah, I'll be there again this year too.
Yeah, very cool. If you're at SEMA this year, go by and check out Nick. When I had spun around, I think I had seen Max Grundy, and I started kind of following him. I know he did a couple mashup things with Mike Alexander several years back, but he's a guy that comes to mind because when I went to SEMA, let's say 3 or 4 times in the last 5 or 10 years, and there was one of the years that he had this massive partnership with them, and he did like all of the artwork throughout the halls and things like that. And it just made me think that, like you said, the importance of, a big organization like that, working with folks that really are embedded in the automotive culture, like yourself, right? And I just love to see that kind of stuff, that cross-pollination, I guess in my mind is the way I think about it, because really it's all under the same umbrella.
Yeah, just recently they started doing that artist feature thing where they pick an artist and they have them do the artwork for the entire SEMA show.
Yep.
And each year they were picking a different artist, and about that time, that's when I got in and was able to get a booth in the art walk. And every year I've been hoping, like, oh, maybe this year they might choose me to do that stuff.
Yep.
This year they actually had Chip Foose do all the artwork for them.
Yeah, he's got,
And
a tight relationship with them too. That's pretty sick.
yeah, and actually this year I was just told that our booths are going to be next to his booth.
Damn.
So I will be near Chip Foose. Hopefully we can chat a little bit. I've yet to meet him. He's been a big inspiration for a lot of the stuff I do because he basically does what I do.
Yeah. Yeah, and when we would watch him on Overhaul and some of the other little spots he's done on different shows, and seeing him do those renderings, we're like, damn, dude, blowing our minds. And like I've always joked, I can't even draw a stick figure. So I look at someone like you that can illustrate or draw or whatnot. It just blows my mind. And as a kid, I had a couple friends that could draw real good. And I thought to myself, damn, man, I got no skills, man. So again, I tip my cap to guys like you. Do you have, if you thought back, right, this is a loaded question, do you have a favorite car or truck that you remember that maybe you drew, maybe it was a rendering, and someone saw it through to the end, which is not easy, and you were, maybe you were the inspiration for them to maybe finish a project or anything like that, or do you have one favorite piece of artwork or car?
Instantly, without a doubt, it's the Blazerado.
Yes, Farva.
That was the very first rendering I did where somebody wanted to do something wild, and they went with my idea instead of seeing my idea and then be like, well, let's change this, and sometimes for the worse. He stuck with what I came up with, and it turned out exactly like the rendering, and it's one of my favorite builds that I've ever seen.
Yeah, one of my severed brothers. Here's the crazy thing too, Nick. You'll remember this. I had shared. There was another company that did a rendering of it that I had forgotten about, and it was in. They ran it in Sport Truck, and it was an orange version. And it's no slight against them because that company at the time, Cutting Edge Graphics, they had did my rendering back in the early 2000s. But when I think of Blazerado, we all think of your rendering. How sick it was even for that day, and how it just came out. Like you said, I'm looking at the rendering right now. You had the front 3/4, the rear 3/4, and then you had that image kind of in the background. Dude, that thing was smoking hot, man.
You know what else was awesome too is before that truck was destroyed,
yes,
which was really sad. I was working at the magazine when that got put on the cover of the magazine.
Oh, how cool.
And so it was insane to be working on the magazine when that showed up and was hot, and like I got to put in all of my little details that I wanted to put on the cover. I hand drew like a graffiti Blazerado tag for the background of the poster and stuff.
Yes. Yep.
It was really cool to be able to like come full circle to that on the magazine.
Yeah, and I had talked to Mike Alexander at one point, and I believe we got to get Alan on one day to maybe talk about the legacy of the truck, because, I mean, it was rebuilt crazy enough, however that happened, and it's been sitting. But I think Mike had said that he had convinced them, and they took a Sawzall and they cut the core support. And he was like, something about the photo shoot, and they were gonna splice two images together and have it where it was like you could kind of see through the hood or something like that. And
yeah, I think they did do something like that.
Yeah, they did something like that, and I think Alan was like, "Oh, no big deal. I'll just get it chrome plated or something," But yeah, that mini truck. For those that don't know, you can check out the hashtag Blazerado, just how it sounds on Instagram. You'll see some of our curated posts, including how it looks now. A couple of people have used that hashtag, but yeah, dude, you talk about a mini truck. Again, from rendering to reality, that famous saying. Dude, hands down, man, Farva, that thing was sick, dude.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome for its time. I was trying to go a little bit outside the box for the graphics on it.
Yep.
Because I always like to try to do something that other people aren't doing.
Yep, which isn't always easy.
I always like that one.
Yep, which definitely isn't always easy. But yeah, like you said, pretty cool stuff. Now, from a car standpoint, do you have, like, I'm a big Lincoln guy, and it's funny, coming from a mini trucker, I just love Lincolns. Do you have one particular vehicle that some of your clients hit you up? Is it Cadillac? Is it Lincoln? Is it a hot rod? Is there one that you feel like, damn, dude, like I get this one asked to be drawn or sketched the most?
It's actually not cars. It's the C10.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Non-stop. Like sometimes I'm doing 2 C10 renderings a day.
Wow.
It's insane. Like that's the number one. That's the number one seller for me.
Cool. Now, let's say someone's listening and they go, yo, I know Nick, I'm getting ready to start a project, or maybe they want artwork just for their man cave or Whoa Man Cave.
Yeah.
What's your elevator pitch? How do they get a hold of you the easiest way?
Email is the best way to get a hold of me. It's surfacenick at Hotmail. Yep, I still have Hotmail.
Yes, me too, man. We're the Hotmail holdouts.
Anyone who got a rendering from me 10 years ago can still email me at the same email address and get another rendering done.
Yep.
Yeah, renderings, email is the best way to get a hold of me. I have a form you can actually fill out on my website to get that rolling. If you want a drawing of your vehicle, just go on my website and you can pick the size, the style, and place an order for a drawing. I've also got a bunch of stuff that's already pre-drawn on there as well.
Yep, pre-drawn stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say someone wanted to do a mashup, right? So over the years, I think that you've done some things for different friends or clients or colleagues in the scene, right? If somebody said, yo, Nick, like, I want to do a shirt, but I want to, like, do a mashup with you. Like, are those things on the table as far as your wheelhouse?
Yeah, I actually do. I do a lot of car show T-shirt designs for people, too.
Got it.
A lot of I'll hand draw a lot of the stuff just to get my line art done, and then I'll bring it into Photoshop and I'll color it in Photoshop on the computer.
Yeah, very cool.
A lot of people you can draw it on the computer as well. There's just something gratifying about having an inked drawing on paper that you can give to the person. Plus, I've noticed it helps me get them knocked out a lot quicker that way too.
Yeah, interesting point. If you type in on Instagram Surface, you're going to see Nick had mentioned Lindsay and Will, so that's Surface Girl, and then Surface Will, and then Surface Nick, right? So you can kind of go out here, and I would encourage you, like, check out Will's stuff, check out Lindsay's. I got a chance to meet Lindsay through the scene, and she's super passionate, and it's crazy to think that you mentioned earlier, kind of early 2000s ish. It's been 20 plus years. We're getting older.
Yeah.
But it's cool how people, like, the roots of our scene, like, some of your, the original Surface crew, they're still in it, dude. They're still doing it. We might have different careers. Some guys are freelancers. Some guys like me are just podcasting on because we love doing it. But to me, I think that's a cool thing, Nick, about it, about the scene that we all love, that a lot of us are in it for life, man.
Yeah.
There's no parole, right?
It's been a journey. I think I'll be in it for a while because I just like custom stuff. I can't stand when something is stock. It just bugs me. Because a lot of times the stock stuff gets approved by people who are trying to sell things, and they're not the people who are passionate about that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, if only it was done this way, it would be better.
I love it, man. Outside of Blazerado, because we talked about that earlier, is there one truck that comes to mind, even if it's something that you had nothing to do with, maybe you worked at the magazine, maybe you didn't at the time, is there any one truck that comes to mind that brings a smile to your face that you go, yo, that's one of my favorites?
There was the Blazer that Little Shop of Horrors built.
Yes.
With the Tacoma front end.
Yep. Crazy, right?
That truck was like always one of my favorites. I'm big on SUVs. For some reason I like them more than trucks with a bed.
Yep.
But yeah, that was one of my favorite trucks for a long time.
Yeah, and speaking of that, on surfacenick.com, you can look at, he's got a coloring book on there, which is on sale. And, you talk about
yeah,
SUVs.
with the Lincoln on the cover.
Yeah, you got the Lincoln Navigator, and it was crazy because
that is my new favorite vehicle.
yeah,
that truck is awesome.
and you think about Schulman building one, Fat Fabs, of course, doing the heavy lifting on the build itself, but Schulman, overseeing a dude.
Everything
sick.
that Fat Fabs is doing right now is awesome. Actually, what's even topped the Lincoln for me is the Escalade.
I know, and dude, it's like Schulman's got to leave a little bit for the rest of us, man. Tip of the cap to Dave, but yeah, it is insane if you think about how many truckers, I think, pushed a lot of this stuff, the bigger wheels, lower,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of that. And one of my goals with the podcast is to make sure we got the flag in the ground to let people know that, hey, I do truly think these Escalades being laid on 28s and 30s and stuff, a lot of that came from the mini truck world because we were pushing the envelope, whether people loved it or hated it at the time, 18s to 20s, 22s, 24s. We were all pushing the limits, and we were sure sharing the shit out of that stuff, like in Street Scene and Street Source,
One of my favorite things about these builds is I like the ones that are like a puzzle where, like, let's see if I can fit this in here with this limited amount of space. Like, I like stuff like that where they're like just pushing the boundary. Like, well, I've got one more inch to spare. Let's see what we can fit in here.
Dude, I definitely like that aspect of it as well. One of my favorite things is pulling all the pieces together, buying the parts, seeing the stuff come together. And I kind of figured out that that's why some guys build these badass rides and they sell them because they love the journey. They love the project management side of it.
When I was younger, I couldn't stand that. I didn't understand it. I was like, you built something cool. Why are you getting rid of it? And now, as I've gotten older, I get it. It's because it's the build that is more fun than the owning of it. It's the building process. And it's like, okay, I built something cool. I've got that to my name now. Let's start something new. Let's do something even bigger. Yeah. It makes more sense now.
Yeah, like when Rob Maggi back in the day is like, yo, we're going to give away crew cut on Street Truck or Street Truck's bag. And I'm like, no, man, like, dude, I want to drive this thing, and, then you get older and you're like, yeah, well, they traded off some advertising and that was good for his business and all that. So it is kind of crazy. But, dude, man, surfacenick.com, N-I-C-K. And again, we shouted out the Instagram. I'd highly suggest that you check out his stuff. I mean, when I slapped hands, I bought 2 or 3 pieces that I could kind of hang in my man cave with Lincoln stuff. And you're one of the few guys out there that you can go on the website, like you said, and some of the stuff's pre-ready to go. You can, of course, also sometimes buy original prints from Nick. That's out there. And then, the renderings and stuff. But, Nick, I don't want to take up too much of your time, man. Is there anything maybe that we didn't cover or something that you want to maybe give someone a shout out?
I'm trying to think. We pretty much went. I'm sure I'll remember something afterwards. Yeah, I'm just working my ass off trying to support the family. It's awesome that I can do this stuff and make a living out of it. Like I never thought that I would be like where I am today, and I have more goals. I'm gonna keep aiming higher. My wife Stephanie, it's our anniversary today.
Oh, happy anniversary!
Thank you. She supports me with everything that I do, and it's awesome that she's also into this car stuff as well. She definitely pushes me to do what I want to do and not look back.
Yeah, and we don't talk about that piece enough. Sometimes we'll get a shout out to our significant others that really hold it down. I came in, you and I had text earlier, and it was like, my wife's like, yo, I made this badass dinner and stuff. And as soon as I came in, I said, hey, I got to go do this. I got to get this audio done with Nick, So it's they kind of put up with things sometimes that they're probably going, really? It's our anniversary and Nick's doing a damn podcast. But again, they love us enough to go, okay, let them do what they want to do, and then we'll have fun later.
Yeah, exactly. We got plans for later, so it's all good.
Cool. Yeah, so surfacenick.com, again, a couple of the DVDs, the old school, the throwbacks. I mean, once these things are gone, they're gone. I've got a couple of the older ones. I might need to fill in a piece here or there, so I'll be out here on the site myself. But again, check them out. If you're at SEMA this year, which we haven't talked about enough, a couple weeks away, Please go by that art gallery area. You'll see some cool stuff that pays homage to Mini Truckin. He's got all of his books out there. You can flip through them. You can buy some pieces and let him know that you heard him on OLP. But Nick, dude, listen, I look up to you, man. Tip of the cap. We've had you on the list a long time, and sometimes I got to just stop with the craziness and look back at the OG list and go, yo, I got to get Nick on. So thank you for taking the time,
Thank you.
man.
Yeah, no problem.
Stay on the rise, Nick. Check him out on social media and have fun this weekend and on your anniversary.
Thank you. I will.
Everyone stay tuned for next week. We'll have an all-new episode. We out of here. Peace. Yo, so it's a wrap. I did kind of say that a minute ago, but Nick did text me. I think the next couple days we text a couple things, and I wanted to make sure I shared what he mentioned, a couple things he forgot to say, but again, want to thank Custom Car Show Productions. Hopefully we'll see many of you out at Bayou Showdown. It's the weekend before Thanksgiving, so it's that 18th, 19th, 20th. Mike's going to be out there with Shannon. I will be back here because we're doing the Tampa Kennedy cruise. So if you live in Tampa or the state of Florida or wherever and you want to come down, we do a cruise kind of commemorating JFK's trip to Tampa just before Houston and Dallas a couple days later, and back in '63. We get the Lincoln guys together, but it's open to all makes, models, mini trucks, lifted. I mean, hell, if you want to ride your stock car, you can do that as well. But here's what Nick said. He forgot to mention his wife taught him how to weld, and they got into building bikes together. And those were a couple of Mini Truckin inspired items that he wanted to mention. So pretty kick-ass. He did share some photos, so we'll share some of the covers that he worked on and some just really, really cool stuff. I mean, just amazing, mind-blown artwork and just different things. So, huge shout-out. You guys got a chance to hear his story earlier, and we really appreciate it. If you like what we did, if you're on an iPhone, please go into the pre-installed podcast app, tap on OLP under Library, and scroll down and leave a 5-star rating. It helps us. You can type a review as well if you'd like. If you're on Spotify, Pandora, any other app that lets you rate us, please leave a 5-star rating. It helps us tremendously. We want to grow so that more people will find us. I tell you, every time someone finds us on YouTube, they go, man, I just found you guys. I never saw the channel before. I'm loving the stuff. Keep it up. And that's fuel to the fire for us to keep going 7+, 8+, 9+, who knows how many plus years. Stay on the rise this weekend. Be safe, as I said earlier. We out ya. Peace.